Hello and welcome to The Future Farmer in association with Calves Billington, leading the industry through people, products and innovation. I'm Nick Wallis, and on each episode I'll be exploring an agricultural topic and discovering the technology that can help bring sustainable and profitable solutions to farming. From the science behind good silage to the efficient management of your milking systems. And here's a taster of what's to come. In this episode,
farmers want to see their calves healthy. There's nothing worse than an unhealthy calf and a sick calf that you're trying to help. So if we can get welfare right from the start and a healthy calf, farmers are on board with that.
Today, it's all about calf and youngstock management. The calves we rear today are our future milking herd. What are the financial implications of getting our calf management wrong? And how do we set ourselves performance targets that are both realistic and profitable? To help us discover more, we're joined on the Future Farmer podcast by calf and youngstock specialist Claire Lawson.
I'm Claire Lawson. I'm the calf and youngstock product manager at Calves Billington. I've been with calves for 5 years now. I come from a dairy background, so grew up on a dairy farm. Then went off to uni to do agriculture and livestock science, and then came straight to calves out of uni.
Give us an understanding then of what products are available for calf and youngstock management sold by Calves Billington.
So it ranges from milk powder and feed to supplements such as colostrums, animal health products such as your wormers for turnout and different calf sundries.
Why is correct calf management so important?
Calf management's really important on dairy farms especially. Because it impacts the future performance and profitability of the dairy farm. So, for example, if you can get a calf growing and improve your growth rates by, say, 0.2 kilos of daily live weight gain a day, up until they're 8 weeks old, you can gain an extra 500 litres of milk in the first lactation. So that impacts on future performance of the farm and future profitability of the farm. So it's really important that Calves Billington are there to help customers get the best out of their calves.
Do you have a personal interest in calves and youngstock? Is it something that you've always been interested in?
So grown up on a dairy farm all my life and somehow managed to get myself engaged to a dairy farmer as well. So dairy farming is definitely in the blood. And I think I've been interested in calves from a young age, but when I went to university and studied agriculture a lot more, there was a lot more science and a lot more data coming out about calf rearing. And I think that's where my passion stemmed. It was if we can improve performance on dairy farms, it'd be really good to get involved with that. So that's where my passion started, more on calves than the general dairy herd, was at university.
And during normal times, non-COVID times, what do you like about the daily routine of your job?
I'm a product manager, so I get to deal with suppliers, get involved with buying and pricing of products, but I'm also a calf specialist, so I get out on farm, I get to weigh calves, I get to do a few diets for farmers, so my job is so varied. Really lucky to get to work in this part of the country with all the great farmers.
And given how vulnerable calves are, I imagine you have good relationships with a lot of vets in the area as well.
We liaise quite often with vets on farm. It's really nice to have a team working with the farmer from a nutritionist point of view and a vet point of view. It definitely works best on farm when we're all working together, and yet definitely we share a lot of data with vets and things, and it's definitely the way forward is for us all to work together.
And have you missed that side of things in recent weeks?
Yeah, I've just missed getting out and seeing people and chatting to my regular customers.
How well informed are the farmers that you speak to about the need for good calf and youngstock management?
Extremely informed. As I've been doing this job over the past couple of years, calf rearing's definitely become more at the forefront of everyone's mind. It's in all the farming press quite often, and farmers are very switched on now to how important it is, whereas we used to focus on the dairy cows and how important they are, but actually now we realise that they are so important for the future of the herd.
So give them a good start in life and they'll reward you throughout their life cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the financial implications of getting this wrong then?
cows don't start paying back until they're in their second lactation. So on average in the UK, it costs us £1,800 to get a calf to produce milk. And then they don't start paying us back until they're into their second lactation. So if we can't get calves calved early, it really impacts financially massively. And especially if you think about that £1,800 across a herd with 200 cows, then you really, really start to feel it if you get it wrong.
So this is about fine margins as much as anything else, making a difference with the products that the farmers use in order to get that repayment on their investment way down the line. What particular issues are you coming across within the product range that you provide, which farmers want to talk about or which you want to discuss with farmers? What's the hot topic right now?
I think definitely milk powders at the moment. We obviously feed a lot of milk powders. They don't get the mum's milk. We make up milk powders specifically designed to get good growth rates, and they can vary massively in quality. And there's a lot of new research now suggesting that maybe a high fat milk replacer with high energy can really impact on epigenetics of calves. So
you're going to have to explain what epigenetics means to me, I'm afraid.
So epigenetics, basically you could have two genetically the same calves and you could feed them a different diet, and one would grow better than the other.
So getting the right milk powder for the calves as they make that journey away from their mothers into being turning into dairy cows themselves is that's central now, and there's a lot of theory and research gone into what exactly the best feed is.
Yeah, there's a massive amount of research. So the first 8 to 10 weeks is when a calf still drinks milk. So that's kind of the really important stage. If you get that wrong, you get the rest of their life wrong, really. All of their internal organs basically grow the most in the first 8 weeks.
Right.
So if you get that wrong and you don't get your lung development, your heart development, you also get your mammary gland development. So that impacts on future milk yield. So that can all be affected by the milk powder you choose and the early life nutrition. So it's really important.
Going back just a stage, how important is colostrum management, the very first feed that a calf gets?
Yeah, so that's even more important than milk replacer.
Right.
So colostrum is the be all and end all of calf rearing, really. So calves are born with no passive immunity. Humans are born with passive immunity because when we're in the womb, we share blood with our mothers and we get their antibodies. Cows' placentas are separate, so they have a separate blood supply from the calf. So they don't share the blood supply. They don't get any antibodies from the mum. So when they hit the floor, when they're born, they have nothing. So the first thing they start licking is a load of muck. Then they're going to get muck into them and they're going to be full of pathogens. So the way that we get passive transfer into a calf that is literally born with no immunity is through colostrum. So colostrum is the first milking from a cow. We call it liquid gold in the industry because it really is. And it's important to get that really high quality and into the calf as soon as possible. A calf's gut is open when they're born. So if we don't get it in within 24 hours, the gut's closed and antibodies can't get into their bloodstream. And that's how they get their passive immunity. So if you think about a farm, they're not exactly the cleanest of places, although we try for them, the calving pen and the calves and everything to be clean, but they're always going to come across some pathogen. So it's important that we get the colostrum into them just because they're born with no immune system.
So given that colostrum's a naturally occurring fluid, how is it that you can help the farmers make sure that the calves get their mother's colostrum and make sure that colostrum is absolutely optimum?
There's a lot of things that affect colostrum quality, such as the age of the cow. So, for example, older cows, if they've had a few calves, their colostrum is better quality. Even things such as genetics, but the cow's diet can change the quality of the colostrum. We also sell vaccines for the cow, which that in turn affects the quality of the colostrum. It provides specific antibodies in the colostrum just by vaccinating the cow. And we also put protocols together for farmers. So when the cow calves, we can then on-farm test the colostrum to make sure that they're feeding them high enough quality colostrum. And if their quality of their colostrum isn't good enough, we can then go and review the management of the cows to change and improve the quality of the colostrum.
How would you define overall good calf management? What would you be looking to talk to farmers about and the products that they would need in order to make sure that the all-round health of the calf is good?
I think overall, calf welfare is the most important thing on farm, and I think everything links into that. So you want good nutrition, but you need things like space for your calves. You need really good hygiene. So we talk a lot about hygiene on farm for calves. You need really clean calf pens.
So welfare is the key thing, and that involves more than just making sure they're healthy with what goes into their bodies, but that they are stimulated.
Yeah, happy calves are healthy calves, to be fair. There's a lot of research now into, well, definitely over the past sort of 10 years, a lot of supermarkets are now making farmers pen their calves together because they are a herd animal and they prefer to be together, and actually it does affect future performance. So it's really important that we get welfare right, and some people even put things like balls and things in for the calves to play with, because they are quite inquisitive animals and they're really clever as well. So it's good that we can get them stimulated, and animal welfare is definitely at the top of the list. And I think the UK is definitely leading the way with welfare on dairy farms.
Are you finding that farmers are therefore responsive to that if the UK has a reputation for doing it, and of course all the farmers networks are talking about this, that you're not having to persuade farmers that calf management involves things like good welfare and healthy, happy calves?
No, I think it's farmers want to see their calves healthy. There's nothing worse, like coming from a dairy farm myself, there's nothing worse than an unhealthy calf and a sick calf that you're trying to help. So if we can get welfare right from the start and a healthy calf, farmers are on board with that.
Obviously, things can go wrong. So what do you look out for or discuss with the farmers when it comes to the products that help prevent disease and prevent poor welfare with calves?
Quite often, it's around the 3 weeks of age when a calf starts possibly feeling unwell. Reason being is they've not just built up their own immunity by 3 weeks old, but the immunity they've got from the colostrum starts to decrease. So they're quite at risk at that 3 weeks of age. And you tend to see things like crypto, which is cryptosporidium in calves. And really, there's not a lot we can do. So a lot of it is discussions with ourselves and the vets, and we can put protocols together for the farmers, and a lot of it is hygiene because there isn't really anything to cure crypto. So we have to get the right chemicals and the right products to clean the calf pens with, to get rid of the pathogens before they get to the calf. So a lot of it is about protocols and things, and our hygiene products rather than animal health products as such.
There are a number of ways of livestock management, including block calving and all year round calving. What kind of demands does that place on the products that you supply to the farmers? And do you have a preference? What do you think works best?
We obviously have a higher demand around the autumn and the spring when we have our block calvers. Obviously milk replacer, everything calf related is more in demand come the autumn and again in the spring. And we definitely buy a lot more products in the back end. We sell a lot more milk powder and things in the back end, and summer is probably our quietest time of the year. I don't have a preference when it comes to block calving or all year round calving. I think they've both got pros and cons to them when it comes to calves. All year round calving, sometimes you can get issues with not being able to rest pens, and it's important you rest pens so that you get rid of your pathogen burden. But again, you've not got 200 calves on the ground all at once needing your attention. So each system is very different and every farm's very different. So I don't have a preference. It's just how we work with the farmers, really.
What about the farm sizes? When the herds get very large, do they have different sorts of demands on what farmers require from you compared to smaller herds?
Yeah, so it is very different. So I deal with herds from the size of sort of 60 to 70 cows all the way up to 1,500 cows.
Wow.
And it's very different. So obviously calf welfare is still at the forefront, and it doesn't matter whether you're small or large. You know, if you've got a high input, high output system, whatever size you are, it's going to impact you financially. So we need to get it right, whatever the size. What I would say is the way that we run and the way that we deal with those customers is different. So for the smaller farms, we would deal with the owner and the farmer themselves, and maybe a few employees. Whereas the larger, bigger farms, we would probably work alongside the calf rearers more.
I'll just ask you personally, which do you prefer dealing with? Because I imagine the challenges of trying to help people manage large herds is quite significant.
I don't think I have a preference really. I enjoy all calf systems, and I think that's a good part of the job. Is it's so varied because every farm is different. Yeah, they both have their challenges, but no, I don't have a preference.
The price of milk has obviously fallen off a cliff because of the closures of the retail outlets. Are there concerns about that coming through? Because of course, running a herd is a 24/7 business, and the needs of the herd don't change. But if the income's not there, that must cause some concern.
Yeah, it does. Fortunately, it does look like we're coming out the other end now. Milk is starting to recover. As far as from a calf point of view, it does affect us slightly because obviously we're selling milk, and we then have to start looking at the cost benefits of feeding a milk replacer when milk prices are low versus feeding milk from the cows when there's not much money in that.
Well, that's interesting. Let's explore that a bit then. So give us an understanding of the decisions that have to be made around that.
So for example, let's just say milk's at, it's not for everybody, but let's say it's at 28 pence a litre. You would then be selling that to your supplier. And if you then worked out your cost of your milk replacer, so our milk replacers range from anywhere from like 14 pence a litre to 27 pence a litre, just depending on the quality of it. So if your milk price has gone really low, you might then start thinking, well, actually, we're better feeding it to the calves than we are selling it to rear our calves on it. However, it is a short-term thing. You wouldn't want to be on that all the time, but there are a few things to consider. So diseases can be passed from milk to a calf. Lifelong diseases such as Yonis, that can be passed from whole milk to the calf. It has no effect on humans. Once it's pasteurised, that is no longer in the milk. But if you have that problem within your herd and then you feed your milk to your calves, you're going to have that issue carrying on. Whereas if you feed a milk replacer, you don't get the issues of some of the diseases that could be passed on to calves. So really it's weighing up a cost benefit of how much you're going to save in the short term while the milk price is bad versus what impact are you going to put on your herd if you reintroduce a disease into your new calves.
Looking at it overall, what are the key targets for good calf management? Do you boil these down into statistics and KPIs, as they call them, key performance indicators?
Yeah, so the key performance indicators really for calves, let's say up to 10 weeks of age, is you need to have them growing at 0.8 of a kilo a day just to get them to calving at 24 months. Preferably, we would have them growing more than that. Some customers we have that we weigh calves for up to like 1.1, 1.2 kilos of daily live weight gain a day.
I mean, that is significant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive. It's absolutely huge. So they're like your Holstein breeds, your bigger breeds, but that is really going some. So when the calf is young, the first couple of weeks, if you put a kilo of milk replacer into them, they're going to near enough give you a kilo back in daily live weight gain. Whereas if you put a kilo of feed into them when they're, say, 3 months old, you're not going to get the same growth rates back off them. They're really, really efficient in the first few weeks of life. So that's how we get the really good growth rates at early doors. But yeah, it's definitely growth rates. And then you'd want to look at things like feed intake, make sure they're eating enough when it comes to weaning. So they want to be eating like 1.5 to 2 kilos at weaning, just to make which is a good indication that they're growing and they're doing well. And then, yeah, just monitoring growth rates until calving, really.
And I guess keeping an eye on the general condition as well. I mean, I imagine you can tell a lot from just looking at a calf. as to how healthy they are and what they might be needing.
Yeah. Young calves, like, they're quite susceptible to things like pneumonia and scours from various different pathogens. So it's very obvious pretty much to tell when a calf's not very well. But yeah, it's important that we keep an eye on the health of the calves as well. There is a score chart, health score chart for calves, where you look at how bright their eyes are, how shiny the nose is and the coat and everything like that. And how well they're breathing and things like that. And then obviously, as soon as you start to see signs of ill health, then that's when you would intervene.
Do you get seasonal problems when you've got all year round calving? Are there particular issues that will come up in the summer, say, against the winter?
You're more likely to get pneumonia in the winter months, just through the cold and things. You can get summer pneumonia if a calf's too hot and the environment's humid. It's definitely they're more susceptible to that in the winter. And then you've got things in the summer like just getting bothered by flies, and they can cause issues with calves as well.
Claire, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge in the area, and I've really learnt a lot from talking to you, so I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening to the Future Farmer podcast in association with Cars Billington. For more information about some of the issues discussed in this episode, search for the Cars Billington website. Once there, you can email with your inquiry, or if you have a question about feeds, machineries, agricultural and rural supplies, or fuels, there are Cars Billington experts on the other end of the phone. Listen out for future episodes, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we know if we're answering all your questions. I'm Nick Wallis, and until next time, keep safe and keep farming.